In this example, I'm going to be talking about doing an example of how to write down what the unit of observations are, the variables, the population, and sample are for a very specific example. So in my statistics class, I have my students do a class survey. I want to show you that class survey. So the class survey looks like this, and it just asks the students, like, what is your main car or truck? What's your gender? How many miles do you live from campus? What's your favorite ice cream flavor? How much do you pay in rent? What is your major? How tall are you in inches? And your opinion of winter. And so what I want to do is I want to take this example and go ahead and talk about what would be the unit of observation. So because I'm sampling my students, my unit of observations would be students in my class. I actually did a slight little mistake here. I usually like to make this singular. It's not a big deal, but I usually like to make it singular. So this is a student in a stats class. Now, the variables, well, there's lots of variables I took from the survey. So if I go back and look at the survey, there's lots of different variables. I have make a car, I have your gender, I have many miles from campus, I have ice cream flavor. So all of those are variables I could write down. So I have make a car, I have gender, I have miles from campus, I have ice cream flavor, I have your rent, I have your opinion of winter, I'm trying to think if I had any more, so let's go back real fast. I have your major, and how tall are you? Okay. So I have major and height. So these are all the variables I'm measuring for each student. And it gives me my ideas of what's going on. Now from that, I can talk about the population. And populations are very difficult when you've got all of these different variables. So let's just pick one variable to work with. We'll work with the variable favorite ice cream flavor. So this population would be the set of favorite ice cream flavors of all students in stats course. Now, just to let you know, if we don't know how big our sample is going to be, but let's go ahead and say the sample is, could be a maximum of 30 students in my class. I would say maybe 5% of those don't actually participate. So 5% of 30 is about 1.5. So let's say 1 or 2, let's say 2 don't do it. So this would be the set of favorite ice cream flavor. Of 28 students in statistics class. Now that's if I'm interested in ice cream flavor. If I'm interested in something else, I could change that and put a different variable there. I did want to talk a little bit about this variable just for a moment. So if we're dealing with this one, we'll actually go back to all of our variables and let's just talk a little bit about them. Let's see which ones are qualitative or categorical. So these again are things that are just qualities that you would measure. So your make of car, your gender, your ice cream flavor, your opinion of winter, now looking at all of these, they're all nominal data because you're not going to put any order on any of these. They're all in the same. Actually, opinion of winter actually could have order to it. So we could go with that. So makeup, car, gender, ice cream flavor, those are all just nominal. But opinion of winter could be, if you wanted to, you could make it into ordinal data. So if you look at it, you could say love it, like it, don't like it, hate it, no opinion. So these first four, you could actually put them in some kind of order. The quantitative let's try to spell that correctly. These again are the numbers. So rent, height, miles from campus. These would all be your quantitative. And of these, looking at these, all three of these, rent, if you pay 0 rent, that means you don't pay any rent. Height, that means if you have a 0 height, means you don't have a height. And 0 miles from campus means you don't live far from camp. You live at campus. So all three of these have an absolute 0. So all three of these are ratio. Once we have the data, so once I were actually to go and collect this data and put this together and take this survey and have the survey going, I'd have all of my rows and all of my information. Each row, by the way, in this data set would be a unit of observation, and then the columns would be each of the different variables. So that's how we set them up. And then we can have something called data wrangling. And data wrangling is where we would now look at the data and we, in a way, we look for kind of cleaning it. And what I mean by cleaning is we're not changing the data. It's just that if two people wrote down, if let's say one person put 3.2 miles and one person put down 3.2, I don't want the miles in there. I want to delete that. If somebody put that their height was 5'6" instead of 66 inches, then I'd want to change that. So cleaning the data means that you're just going through and making sure the data is in a usable form. And what we get is we're going to make it into this thing called tidy data. And tidy data is where we have each row is a unit of observation. And each column is a variable. And that's what we call tidy data. So you want to make sure each of your rows is a single unit of observation. So a person or a date or a country or whatever it is that you measured. And then each column would be the value of the variable you measured for that unit of observation. And that's what we call tidy data. And data wrangling is to make sure your data is in this tidy data form. All right.